Hello and welcome to the MentalMusic podcast, a podcast made for teens by teens exploring mental health from our perspective. My name's Gordon.
And I'm Grace. Today we're going to have a special mini episode where we talk to an amazing person called Zottie Dottie about what she does around mental health.
Anything you want to say?
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so hello, I'm here with Zoe, aka Zottie Dottie, Zottie Dottie from her website www.zottiedottie.com. She interviews people around Australia and sometimes around the world who have their stories and their experiences about mental health and how they've researched it, if they're professors, or how they've been exposed to it, if they're coaches or teachers. Things like that. So, hello, Zottie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing? I'm well, thanks.
Just to clarify, the Zottie Dottie was a nickname of mine. So my name is Zoe, but when I was a little girl, my mum called me that. And the reason why I'm so passionate about mental health is that I lost my mum to suicide in 2012.
Okay.
And so that's sort of why I then became a mental health advocate, to really tell people about the preventative measures that are out there and how people can get help to reach out before things progress to before they're too late in someone's life. So, yeah, I guess, do you have any questions for me to start off?
Yeah, I'm sure that there are many people out there that have had stories like yourself, having parents split up or sometimes take their own life. And that's always very shocking to them and to people around them. And you've talked to some people who've had pretty crazy stories about family adventures, stuff like that, and sometimes the opposite, misadventures.
Of course, and I think what brings people together is that I always say that we can all go through bad days, but how do we overcome those bad days? To sort of put it in perspective, someone's experience will be very different from another, and they might just be interested in it because they like to help other people. So all the sort of people that I speak to, they don't necessarily always have a very tragic story to share. They don't have maybe something horrible that they've been through themselves, but they just like to destigmatise mental health, in that it's completely fine to talk about whatever you want to when you want to. So I think it's just about breaking down barriers between people and cultures and being able to feel like you can freely express yourself.
Okay. And when it comes to talking with people with their adventures, how is it different depending on age, gender, jobs, stuff like that?
We would say that the majority of people that started to open up initially were females. I think a lot of men were the viewers, so they were consuming the content but not actually the ones who were open and wanting to share at the very beginning. And then that was more for the interviews, so face-to-face videos. As we then moved into a different campaign called Selfie of Support, that really opened things up to men, women, female, children, older people, anyone who had a phone and was happy to take a picture of themselves, and then they could write their own caption however they wanted to, say that they support destigmatising mental health. So that, with, as you know, like hashtags and Instagram, these things just are all instantly global, and automatically you have people from all, so for the campaign we had people in 36 countries share their stories. So we just had to go down and list every single person from where they were from and add them all up. And people just really open up and say, this is what I've been through, or I know someone who this happened to, and it's completely all right to know that we do go through some hard things, or we will probably throughout our lives, and it's going to be okay if you have the support systems there, and these are some of the numbers to ring if you really don't feel that you can speak to any friend or loved one. And so there's always things that bring people together regardless of where you're from and what your age is. Those things really become a bit irrelevant when you're so honest and open about these things.
Yeah, and becoming open about these topics, does that help when it comes to dealing with your inner stress, stuff like that?
Of course, yeah. I think that I'm very fortunate in I'm naturally quite a social person. So always through school I like to speak to people, and naturally I also became the person that people would come to if they ever had something go wrong because of different things. Like my parents divorced when I was very young. So then at school I had other girlfriends and other just guys and girls come up to me and say, oh, well, what did you do when that happened to your mum and dad? And so naturally, I think by life experience, you become a good soundboard to be able to talk about that with someone else, because if you've been through it, then people look to you as a bit of a helping hand in a time of need. So that's just naturally what happened to me. And I felt like I was working in the corporate world, and I had jobs as you do. You get your finished school, and I went on to uni, and then I travelled and I was working overseas. But for me, this was more about giving back at a time when I was happy with what I had achieved, and I just really wanted to try to help other people that you could see through all these photos that are shared through the mediums of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that some people were quite unhappy, and sometimes they're directing that at the wrong people or sharing things online that I saw that was quite concerning. Yeah. So I wanted to be quite an open book and say, I'm here to talk to you if you want to have a chat. By all means, if someone is unwell, I'll be the first person to say this is Kids Helpline, this is Lifeline, this is Men's Help Support. So all of those things, I know that they existed, but maybe some other people just didn't know that they're out there or how to get help. So I try to steer them in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay, and when people open up on your site and sometimes on social media, what kind of stories do they tell?
Oh, all sorts. Yeah. Okay. So some people were had a very hard upbringing. They might have been abused when they were younger. They might have had a really terrible breakup, or they might be suffering with a varied range of different mental illnesses. So some people have generalized anxiety disorders, they suffer from bipolar, they suffer from depression, they suffer from so many different things. It's not just one thing. And so it really helps people who might not know anyone else with the same diagnosis as themselves to go and say, oh, look, it's a really normal looking human being, and they go through something similar to what I do. Because I think the hardest part is that you just can't see someone's brain, or that it's not like a broken arm or broken leg. So if you're just struggling a little bit and need some support internally, it's very hard to maybe voice that. And I find that by typing, it's a lot easier for people to get that off their chest and to put it into words, because we're all quite used to texting everyone now and stuff. So it was quite easy for people to share like that. And the good thing is there's quite a bit of anonymity in that. If you're on the other side of the world, a lot of the people who might be sharing from America don't know any of us in Australia, but they feel welcomed in this community because they feel we're all the same. And I think that's what it's all about.
And nice. Then back at home, if you were to share those stories with close friends face to face, it's different. Yeah.
It's a little bit more daunting, I think. And also, where do you go from there? Sometimes you might sit down and you might say, I need a bit of help. But if the person that you're speaking to doesn't understand or maybe doesn't really know what advice to give you, then that's maybe a bit of an awkward conversation to have, I would say. But there are so many amazing resources online, and I know that when I started all of this, I did so much research, and there's Black Dog Institute and Beyond Blue, and they have really helpful little videos just to describe what different things are, and they're all really good to watch. So would suggest some of them are on ZottieDottie.com, so you can have a look. But other than that, it's very important just to find someone that you like to talk to and be comfortable to just chat.
And that's the thing, when going online, there are always so many more sources, much more diverse than face to face.
Yeah, that's true. I think it definitely can be overwhelming. One thing that I found was that all of the helplines and all of the information that came up, it was a bit too much. If you're just wanting to find one particular piece of information, I ended up having to spend about 6 months going through and digesting literally every definition and all of the things that were out there to try to sort of make it a lot more simpler, condense it right down to just in its simplicity is mostly the best way of understanding something. With teachers, if they make it far too complex, it can be just a bit overwhelming. So I think it's always the best simple is keep it simple, stupid. The KISS rule. So I think that's what I wanted to do with my website, was just have quite a very simple place to come that was a bit relaxing rather than being too much going on the site.
Right. And just to finish up, how do you think you've gained from starting the Zottie Dottie website?
Oh, so much. I think from any endeavour that you pursue, anything that's academic or, or sports, anything like that makes you have to talk to other people or do things, it really helps you grow up. So I found that, I've had to go and, still, I'm 28, I'm still growing up. So it's like you have to overcome your fears. You have to sort of reach out to people who, when I'm speaking to professors or other people who are businessmen, and they sort of look at me with two heads when I say, will you talk about your mental health? So I think it's always a challenge for me day to day to reach out to those people. But I think that's a very valuable skill that you need in life to be able to confront, and ask questions and those sorts of things. So I've gained a bit of confidence maybe that I probably didn't have as much of when I first started this. And I think that's always handy to have in life.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for thanks for coming along.
No worries.
Zoe, yeah.
Thanks very much for having me.
You can find her at her website at www.zottiedottie.com, and you can also find that on our site. Right, thanks, Zoe.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely to meet you. Enjoy your day.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into our mini episode of Zottie Dottie.
If you have any music for us to play in any future episodes, please feel free to send it to our site at mentalmusic.org.
And if you liked the stuff that we did today, check us out on mentalmusic.org or visit our social links at MentalMusic Pod. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.